Yep, great. Thanks, JR. Just to answer one question, and Anna, a couple of the issues you've raised, I think, are really on the money, and we're going to deal with those. But one that came up in our group was we need to be very clear on who our common target audience is, right? And what does an HNI look like? We have, as a straw man, sort of said that in terms of, and this is subject to the group refining the definition, that the HNI we're chasing is the individual or family with either current property investment or the capacity to invest $10 million in property, okay? 10 million plus. So we as a group can refine that, but that's the straw man as to who we're targeting. Okay, some of the other points that have been made, I'm going to deal with in a moment, but let me go back to my screen share for a second. So we've talked about the KLT structure. I think most of you have got an understanding of what that looks like and how it works. Very important, and know, like, and trust doesn't happen just because you sign up to be a member, right? It happens over time. You've got to spend quality time. And someone made the point in our discussion, is it going to be a Zoom group or is it going to be face-to-face? The answer is it probably ends up being a blend, but the face-to-face contact is really important because my experience is Zoom is a fantastic tool. It's very transactional. The piece that's missing from Zoom is the shoulder contact, because it's often what happens before the meeting or after the meeting when you're just standing there chatting, and then you decide, let's go and grab a cup of coffee and continue this conversation where relationships develop. So I find my Zoom life, and I spend, I think, probably 4 to 5 hours a day in Zoom meetings, very productive in terms of I get through a lot of stuff, but in terms of developing relationships, depth of relationships, it's not a great tool. So I think it's a blend. So the third and final point of our of difference for us is this culture of generosity. And culture of generosity is really, I think that Robert Ingersoll quote, "We rise by lifting others," is the best way it can be explained. You've got to believe that in the long run, it's in your interests to help the other people in the room grow and prosper. Refer with generosity, pay it forward, listen with intent, get to know them, get to understand their business, offer advice freely. This is what creates the social cohesion of a BBG forum. I think everyone understands why referrals are important and how BBG can overcome those obstacles. Here's the reality check, and I think this is useful. Before someone refers you, we believe they must know, like, and trust you. They're not going to risk their own social capital, their own credibility with hard-won clients and friends and colleagues and family members if they don't truly believe that you can do a good job for them, right? So our process is around helping you get to know each other well enough, collaborate with each other, look at how people's minds work and the case studies and the reference clients that they've got, that you do know, like, and trust. And like in this context is not that we expect you all to make one another godparents to your children. It's professional like. It's, I like the way that person does business. I like what they stand for. I like their business morals, their ethics. It's that kind of relationship that we're trying to create. The KLT hot seat is around you being able to educate the other members of the group and them being able to educate you well enough on what they do and how they do it and why it's important that you can spot a referral opportunity when it presents itself. So, I'm really interested in what Peter does, because it seems to me a very very specific and nuanced sort of piece of advice that he provides. And I don't quite understand where in the sales process that comes in. So for me, and I'm not asking you to answer that now, Peter, for me, I would need to sort of sit there and listen to Peter explain it, so that I get a clear view of the point of the transaction where someone like Peter comes in. Because to me, at the point that something's gone to legals, it's always a rush, right? How do you slow it down enough that someone says, well, I'm actually not going to rush to sign this document. I'm going to take it away, get it read, reviewed, suggest changes in the clauses. I think it's important, right? But how do you change the buying pattern to make that happen? So as an example of why it's important to have a KLT hot seat, for me, if I was in this group, I would need to understand that from Peter to be able to usefully support what he does. And then you've got to have motivation to refer one another, and that motivation is not going to be extrinsic. There's no one walking around waving a stick counting how many referrals everyone's given. It's actually got to come from you. You've got to believe that the culture of generosity is a useful thing, that you want to be participating in that kind of group, that you feel comfortable giving and supporting, in the knowledge that the law of reciprocity will eventually catch up with you, because if you're giving, it'll come back to you. So that's my reality check as to why this should work. The outcomes that we're seeking to deliver for you are growth, business, personal, professional, circle of influence, but they all come back to growth. I think most of you have probably done enough due diligence to understand how much BBG costs, but I put it on, actually, for those that were paying attention, it was on the second or third slide in the deck anyway. It's not a secret. There's a one-off $4.95 joining fee, an annual membership of $17.95, or you can pay monthly at $180. The average time commitment per month is 3 to 4 hours. So it's probably a couple of hours in a meeting and a couple of hours of face-to-face time getting to know the individual members of your group better. The reality is, if you are in a group like this, the money is immaterial, okay? Because you only need, any of you, one deal a year to make 1,800 look like a very good investment. The issue that you need to kind of work out, I think, in your own minds as to whether this makes sense or not is, do I philosophically feel comfortable with what's being said? And am I able to give 3 to 4 hours a month? Because if your diary is so packed that 3 to 4 hours a month doesn't work for you, then you're not going to have enough time to invest in developing the KLT relationships you need to make this happen. So, if you are truly time poor, I would advise against getting involved. Final question I sort of pose, and then I'll throw it open for discussion, is for you to think, is BBG right for me? I would flip it and say, here's what we look for in terms of our members. We look for people that, yes, are hungry for growth, but it's got to be off a solid base, right? If you don't have your business base established and you're thinking BBG is the fast ticket for me to get my head above water, wrong, not the place for you. You've got to be expert and committed to excellence. If your standard within your business is okay is okay, right? If that's, you know, I need to do an adequate job is all you seek to do for your clients, I would discourage you from getting involved, because what we need is for everyone to be pursuing excellence, so that when you recommend someone else in this group, they don't just do an okay job, they do a great job that enhances your standing with the person that you recommended the other member to, right? So it's a standard that we all aspire to. If you don't share it, don't join. You've got to be innovation receptive. If you think that you're doing business the way that you've done it for the last 10 years and you want to continue doing it that way for the next 10 years, again, my suggestion is you're very quickly going to be clubbed from behind by someone that does business faster, smarter, more automatically, better technology. We're all living in an age of rapid change. And one of the values that we bring is being able to share that understanding, that knowledge between ourselves, so that we're all, you know, not necessarily at the cutting edge, but certainly at the early adopter stage of new technology. Your nature needs to be generous. You need to be persistent. We want optimists in the group. There's plenty of opportunity to walk around and say the sky is falling in, whether you want to look at the climate, whether you want to look at COVID. There's lots of reasons to be pessimistic, but ultimately, you know, this has got to be a place of optimism. And I think right now there are opportunities for good, committed, smart people to do well, grow their business, and you know, share that growth. So that's who we want as members. If you look at that list and say, yeah, that resonates with me, chances are there's going to be a good fit. If you look at that list and say, that doesn't sort of correlate with where I think I'm going, I would rather discourage a few of you from joining and end up with a nice cohesive team than say BBG is for everyone. You know, just give us the money. That's not what it's about. Really not what it's about. So next steps. If you think you are interested, just pop it in the chat. Just say, yeah, happy to chat more. We'll email you some further information and be in touch. We will hold a member-only planning forum late January, probably the last week of January. And our objective is to hold our first public forum where we invite guests, hopefully face-to-face. And it will be face-to-face with a Zoom component, so that those that are not in Sydney can participate electronically sometime in February. Between all that, we do have a gala forum, which this year will be a national gala forum via Zoom in December, which I mentioned earlier, with Ari Galper talking, and obviously all of you, particularly those who decide to become members, are very welcome to join that forum on the 9th. Is it the 9th of December, Jane?
It is.
Yeah. So that is the story. Very happy to throw the discussion open to the floor if there's any questions. Yeah, thank you very much for giving up your time.